There's this Twitter account, Vocal Distance, which does a really great job at explaining the tactics of modern day Marxists, what they're doing in academia, what they're actually trying to accomplish. So if you're not signed up to it, then I strongly suggest that you do. I'm going to show you in a video exactly what he does and what he likes discussing. There's this recent controversy about Mario going woke, specifically Nintendo going woke. And the controversy is surrounding this character, which in Japan is a gender ambiguous character. Now, gender ambiguous isn't in the non-binary sense that you have in the US or in the sense of transgender. Like in Japanese culture, it just means that it's a character that looks androgynous and you can't really tell. But again, like the character itself does not necessarily identify as non-binary or transgender. It's just like a person that's androgynous and they probably identify with the gender assigned at birth. You know, it just so happens that they look in a way that's difficult to tell. Kind of like the female characters that AAA is making. But again, the localizers, which are from the United States, cannot accept that there are other types of cultures and other types of beliefs outside the United States. So they have to Californianize everything. And in the translation, they made the character trans, right? And the character is a ghost. I don't really know what they mean by this, but I assume that the ghost probably died as a male and then transitioned into a female post-mortem. Like you'd have to talk with the with the localizers because I genuinely don't know what they meant. But a lot of people were pointing out, it's like, why is Nintendo doing this? And the answer is that Nintendo is aware. What's happening is that many games, in order to be published in the West, they require to go through certain platforms, and in order to make sure that your game gets approved on that platform, you gotta hire these American localizers, and you know what you're getting yourself into if you do. So you have Vocal Distance explaining exactly why this is happening, and apparently in 1993, even I didn't know about this, but there is written evidence of the case, that in 1993, philosopher John Searle explained that Marxists were taking over departments of English and literature. He investigated this matter and discovered that Marxists and leftists had decided that the best way to change society into a Marxist one was to use culture. Those of you who are old enough to remember know that there was a previous wave of political correctness that came before us, and it didn't actually take roots, but it had like the same nonsense where they would turn on the cops and they would try to push for sensitivity training. That's what it was called at the time. But again, it didn't catch roots because social media didn't exist, right? So you have like a couple of bizarre students with their bizarre takes and everyone was making fun of them. But it was the same culture, the same ideology that's prevalent today, especially online. So, apparently Sarah realized that Marxists thought taking over the English department is the first step to taking over the country. Marxist political ideas had been refuted by events, so Marxist ideas retreated into the English department, where they were used as tools of interpretation. The problem is that it wasn't just the English department. In 1989, the New York Times article explains that Marxism was mainstream in American colleges. It was mixing with feminism, deconstruction, and race theory, and that Marxists were surprised at how easy it was at the universities. Basically what they did is, once they would get into a place, they would start gatekeeping, basically promoting other Marxists and suppressing non-Marxists, and they're circle-jerking the peer-review literature in order to promote their own works. So that's how they got into university. And most people, when they think about university, they think of the scientific method. But the scientific method cannot work if you corrupt the peer review part, right? So like, if you do an experiment and it doesn't work, but everyone that peer reviews claims that it did work, well, now you have corruption in the academia. It is actually funny to talk with liberals and they will say, yeah, of course, like a politician can be corrupt. Like you can buy a politician. Yes, a cop or a prosecutor can be corrupt, like you can buy them. But for some reason, they don't think you can do that with a scientist. Like, there is something sacred, there is something holy about the scientist, which puts him above corruption. So anyway, the reason that Marxists adopt this strategy, according to Vocal Distance, is that Marxists and leftists realized if they were forced to adhere to academic and intellectual standard of reason, truth, logic, etc., their Marxist leftist ideology was going to lose. It's very difficult when you look at feminists, right, which are an offshoot of Marxism, when they say that they live in a rape culture or a patriarchy, or they say hashtag yes all men. Like if you actually put that to an honest debate, they will not manage to win. If you have a person that goes around and say, yeah, we need to confiscate your private property, like we're going to take away your business, we're going to downsize your house, we're going to lower your living standards so that we can have equality. There is no way that person can win against someone else that advocates for freedom and says actually inequality is good, right? So what they need is constant moderation, they need constant censorship, they need bullying, they need all of these tactics in order to promote their ideology. Most of the woke ideology isn't promoted by trying to convince people. Like you sit someone down and you talk to them about, no. The way it is done is through enforcement. You're like, either you believe this way or you get fired. Either you think this way or you're getting your account banned. And immediately a lot of people start complying. So the other reason Vocal Distance says is that if everything is about interpretation, then facts don't matter. The thing that matters is the interpretation of the facts. The final reason from Italian communist Antonio Gramsci idea is of cultural hegemony. Cultural hegemony means to be proeminent, prestigious, influential, and dominant within culture. The groups whose ideas, beliefs, and views and values dominate culture has cultural hegemony. Gramsci said that for communists to take over and maintain control over a society, they need people to agree with communist values, beliefs, ideas, etc. And the best way to get people to agree with communism was to have communist ideas become dominant in culture. The result is that Marxist, neo-Marxist, leftist, communist, postmodernist, critical race theory, and gender theorists, various other leftist groups have adopted the strategy of trying to launder their ideas in society through culture. And he gives a perfect example of this Transformers video, where Optimus Prime learns about non-binary and uses they, them pronouns. So like, the idea is that most of woke ideology is incredibly boring. Most of it pisses people off. And a lot of it is false. But if you push it in movies, if you push it in places where people don't expect them, they will consume it by consuming their entertainment. The perfect example of this is a TV show called The Last of Us. And The Last of Us is based on the video game that most people know. And when you look at the TV show, from what I gather, like the first episodes are kind of okay. But there is, I believe, the third episode which created the controversy, because the third episode is about two gay men on a farm, and it's almost like the farm is separated from the apocalypse. Like they have everything, they have plenty. So it's really a story about old men that end up fucking, which is something that most viewers that are interested in The Last of Us, which is a post-apocalyptic survival show, is that really something that they wanted to see? Now what's interesting about this, right, is that the director himself knew that this is not what people didn't want to see. And in an interview, he says that, oh, well, I know that people, that the fans weren't interested in it, but I had to give it to them, and it felt as if hiding the carrot inside the cupcake. And I'm thinking, like, okay, that is their mentality, right? Like, they know that people do not want their ideology, but they view themselves as the adults. Like, they view themselves as the grown-ups, and they view you as the child, the spoiled brat that just doesn't want to eat the vegetables. So they have to hide the vegetables. They have to hide their ideology into something you like in order to spoon-feed it to you. And this is exactly how many of these Marxists think. And as Vocal Distance says, like, none of it is an accident. There are very explicit strategies by leftists to use culture and education as vehicle to achieve the leftist political goals. Isaac Gottsman says in his book that 60s radical went into the classroom. He explains how leftists brought Marxism into university and radicalized university in the 70s and brought in postmodernist feminist ideas and critical race theories in the 80s and the 90s. Again, the political left says all of this out clearly in peer-reviewed books. Like the knowledge is there, right? Like, this is not a conspiracy theory or anything. These are old books that exist in libraries. You can find them on Google Scholar. You just search for the author, and if you want, you can buy their work, and you can see that everything is lined up. Like, they're explaining it step by step, not just what they want to achieve, but how they want to achieve it. Basically, the reason the culture is woke is Marxist leftist communist gender theorists and various other leftists took over the university department, arts and culture, and used them to make radical leftist activists whose goal is to use culture to take over society. So basically, like the university professor, right? Like, who goes to a university? People that are influential, right? Like people that are rich. So they go to the university, they get indoctrinated into this, and then they go out and they spread what they learn. So they spread what they learn on social media, they spread what they learn among their friends, their peer groups, and part of the indoctrination isn't just the ideas, but it's how to behave. Like, you're trained to get offended if anyone thinks differently. You're trained to associate with only like-minded individuals and to ostracize people that think differently. Like, all of this is part of the training that a student gets at these universities. So it's no surprise that when they go out there, they have like a way of proselytizing without actually necessarily like talking about the ideology, but it's basically on how they behave, right? So like, if you have a woke friend, you'll notice that they usually come in groups. Like, they have like a group of friends, and if you say anything that upsets them, it's like flipping a dial from 0 to 11, because most people, like, when they get upset, they will, you know, talk to you nicely. But a woke individual is nice one moment, and the other goes into life ruination mode. Like, they want to absolutely destroy you because you said something that they perceive offensive. So what people do then is that they start studying woke ideology in order to make sure that they know what doesn't trigger these people, right? So, like, for instance, it can be anything. It can be, oh, you're a white guy and you have dreads. Like, never in your wildest dreams would you conceive that the way you shape your hair may get someone so upset that they would try to ruin your life over it. Or if you're a sexy girl and you want to wear like a dress, you want to wear a kimono or some shit, they freak out. Oh, that's cultural appropriation. And again, like, they try life ruination over you, right? So now you seeing that happening around you, or seeing it happen to yourself, like, what you need to do is you need to dedicate time in order to study and to learn woke ideology, to basically indoctrinate yourself so that you don't offend these people. And this is how they spread the message, right? And again, like, these people end up working at gaming companies, working at entertainment companies. I mean, you saw at Netflix when Dave Chappelle, which was very popular, managed to give a brilliant stand-up act. And one of the people working there, a very woke individual, bursted into the room of his employee when he was in a meeting and demanded that Dave Chappelle be canceled. And this is why you have these things, right? Like, this is why you have this, and this is why you got, like, the woke Mario, and this is why, right? Like, this is them hiding the carrot in the broccoli. Like, they know that you're not interested in woke ideology, you're interested in Mario, but you're going to get the woke take on it. You're not interested in woke ideology, you want to know about Transformers, but you're going to get the woke take in it, so on and so forth. Let me know what you guys think, though, and as usual, I will see you in the comment section. Take care.